All right, so let's get started then. Good afternoon, everyone, and very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Elena Verizub, and I'm Associate Director, Learning and Academic Skills, LESS Center at Swinburne University of Technology. I would like to introduce Steve Campitelli. Steve, just wave to us. Steve is the learning strategist in the academic skills at the University of Melbourne. And also, so Steve and I are your representatives of the Victorian branch of the Association for Academic Language and Learning. Now I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather and pay respect to all Aboriginal community elders, past and present, who have resided in the area and who have been an integral part of the history of this region. Steve and I are very proud to launch this professional development series called Connect, Inspire, Share. We hope that these sessions, which we plan to run regularly, will provide you with the opportunity to connect with each other, to be inspired by our guest speakers' presentations, so you could pass this inspiration on to your colleagues and students, and finally share your thoughts and experiences with this group and beyond. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Associate Professor Liz Branigan. Liz, if you could wave your hand so everybody could see you. So here's Liz. Liz is an accomplished tertiary education leader. She is currently the acting Pro-Vice Chancellor Educational Transformation at Trobe University. As such, Liz is responsible for the university's rapid move into the online learning. Liz's passion lie in access, equity, and inclusion. Prior to her role at Trobe University, Liz led the Learning Transformations Unit at Swinburne University. And during this time, she led the staff digital capability uplift during the LMS migration from Blackboard to Canvas. In 2018, Liz led a team effort to receive Swinburne University's Vice Chancellor's Award for Teaching Excellence, Higher Education for the Graduate Certificate in Learning and Teaching. So today, Liz will present on how authentic online learning can support equity and accessibility for students. Welcome, Liz.
Thanks, Elena, and thank you and Steve for inviting me to attend today. I noticed when people came in, there was a little bit of a chat about not having weekends and things, and I know that everybody's been flat out working. I personally was very excited to be coming and talking to you all this afternoon because I thought, professional development, it's for me as well to actually hear from you all about what you're thinking on this topic, and I'm really excited that we've got time for breakout discussions, and when that happens, I'm going to give you a key question to consider. And then jump in and out of the breakout rooms and hopefully get to be involved in some of those discussions. So I'm going to try and make it as interactive as possible. So as Elena introduced me, I'm the Acting Pro-Vice Chancellor of Educational Pro-Vice Chancellor Educational Transformation at La Trobe, and that means I've been very busy and very tired this year because this role was created in January and almost immediately went into online responses and moving everything online. So definitely at La Trobe, we shut down for a week and then came back up with our subjects fully online. So it's been a wild ride. And it's been really interesting. It's given me the opportunity to bring together two of my passions, I guess, which are online learning and student equity and accessibility. And one of the things that I've been talking and writing and thinking about a lot during this period in time is how online learning can support better learning for people, you know, who don't normally have great access to higher education. And I see those things as being inextricably entwined, and I know sometimes people argue entirely the opposite, is that online learning is very, you know, creates barriers and blocks and challenges for students. So I want to get into the little bit of the complexity around that and unpack it a bit and kind of talk through and toss around the ideas that I have on how online learning can work really effectively for students. I fully acknowledge that it can also work really badly, but I've got some points here about some of the things you can do to actually make it work better. So just going to share my slides. Should be coming up now. Can we see it?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome, great, thank you. So it won't be slide heavy. I'll probably talk with slides for about 10 minutes, I think. Okay, so the topic that I'm addressing today is how authentic online learning can support equity and accessibility for students. So give you a little bit of a background for La Trobe, and I've only been at La Trobe for 14 months. La Trobe's a medium-sized university. There's around 38,000 students. Close to 8,000 of our students are actually located on our regional campuses, and La Trobe's Victoria's only fully statewide university. So we've got campuses from Albury-Wodonga up on the border, which is interesting for those guys at the moment because they're subject to the cross-border permit activity when they're trying to get to work. We've got Bendigo, Bundoora, Melbourne CBD, Mildura and Shepparton, and it is really challenging at the moment because all of our Victoria campuses are subject to different restrictions under the COVID lockdown. So it's been a bit of an effort to make that all happen, but again, something that's really been supported by having a very solid and active online presence. We've got the La Trobe Rural Health School. It's Australia's largest rural health school. It's distinctive for being based entirely in the regions, and the teaching occurs solely on our regional campuses. We are a primary provider of new graduates for the health and education workforces, especially in rural Victoria. This is just some of the statistics from La Trobe on the student equity breakdowns. I've got the participation rates next to the success rates there. We have 9.4% students with a notified disability, and the success rates over on the side show that students with, from equity cohorts at La Trobe are actually doing really well. We've got success rates for students with a disability, 81.9%, Indigenous students, 79.7%, regional students, of which that is the most of our equity cohorts, and that's 89.3%, low SES, 18.8%, with a 86.3%, and non-English background with a 84.6%. So I think one of the most interesting things about La Trobe from my perspective, and one of the reasons why it was a university that I chose to go and work at, is it has a very strong focus on student inclusion and equity. But you will note from the statistics there that the vast majority of that is for our regional students, and they might also, fit some of those other equity categories. But it's really the fact that we've got about a third of our students are our regional students. So as I said at the beginning, I'm an absolutely strong proponent of the fact that effective online learning can be a really key driver of access and equity. Pre-COVID-19 this year, almost a quarter of commencing domestic students in Australian universities chose to study online. So even prior to everything that happened this year, we already had about 1 in 4 of our students in Australia choosing to study online. And when you actually look at the research of who is choosing to study online, you will see that there's a very high percentage of people that fall into those identified equity cohorts. So we've got a high proportion are older, are female, are part-time, first in family at uni, low SES, regional, rural, remote, Indigenous or disabled. So really those people who are choosing to study online from the go-get are often also those people in those equity cohorts. There's also an increasing online learning for people who are parenting, employed, working, and just trying to juggle life, all the complicated things that we're trying to do writ large at the moment. COVID-19 has meant more students are now grappling with other, issues that really impact on their ability to study and study effectively, including unemployment and working from home while caring for children. So I certainly know that I've had to keep soft toys next to my, home office at the moment to actually, talk with students and staff who are, having children climb on their heads while they're trying to do things at computer, or one who actually got a child throw a multi-pack of 2-minute noodles at her head during a meeting the other day. And they were going, "Feed me!" So there's more students in that situation at the moment, but I think there's a lot of students who are in that situation normally, who we kind of, they're a bit hidden. We don't really think about students in that way. So my belief is that purposefully crafted and well-designed online learning has enormous potential to meet these needs. I should have probably put an extra point in there, actually. Purposely crafted, well-designed and well-supported online learning, which is the key bit that I want to talk about with you guys, is the support piece, or one of the key bits. So I think that online learning is core business. What happened over the past few months is, from urgent necessity, we just kind of went to teaching remotely in the easiest ways possible. So I know almost all of you will be working at universities in the same situation, where either you shut down for a week or 2 weeks and came back up online, or some universities didn't even shut down for that week. It just went online the next week. So obviously that was urgent. And we started doing this in the easiest ways possible. We used basic tech tools. We heavily relied on our LMS. We use email, we use phone, we called people. So that was amazing. And I certainly know we surveyed our students at La Trobe and they were so happy with that. But what happened after that was a kind of a bit of fallout and pushback, especially from people like our Federal Minister for Education, who said things like online learning's rubbish, students aren't getting the same learning experience, they're not learning as well, they're not learning as deeply, they hate it, get rid of it, we can't wait to get back to normal and get everybody back on campus again. That's when I started writing about this quite a bit and saying, actually, this is not proper online learning. This is something we did out of a necessity at a really difficult point in time with the tools we had at hand in the best we could in the moment, but it's actually not online learning. Some of the, a couple of the articles that I've linked to there are some of the terms that's been used to describe what we actually did during that point in time. I like the one panicagogy. I thought that was a good one. It's like, yep, this is kind of what we did while we were panicking. And I also love the term of pedagogy triage, where we just kind of went, what's the most urgent thing about our teaching that we have to do, and did it. So the bottom line that underpins that really is, if we've got more time and space to think about it a bit more purposefully, online learning shouldn't necessarily be less effective for student education, student engagement and success. We just have to, think, put a little bit more planning and care into how we actually do it, which is the point that many of us are at right now. So I guess some of the things we did to move into teaching online at La Trobe was we really provided incredibly robust support from the perspective of La Trobe Learning and Teaching, which is our central learning and teaching support unit. So that's where we have all our education designers, our education technologists, our academic developers. It's actually one of the biggest centres in Australia, with around 45 people in that centre. So we were able to mobilise some really incredible round-the-clock support for our teaching staff, which included an Ask EdTech help desk that we just put on extended hours for phone calls. And we started churning through really, really huge amounts of, I think we were not dissimilar to other institutions that we all collectively crashed Zoom while we rushed in to learn how to teach on Zoom. I remember a couple of times when we had 400 people attempting to get into those workshops, and collectively as a country we managed to crash Zoom. So great that everybody was rushing in to do it, but a lot of things we had to learn about how to support online learning from the back end, and some of that involved, it went all the way throughout semester one. It was about how do we do online exams, how do we do group work online. I certainly know that our institution managed to crash Zoom again when we tried to do online exams. So it's a constant learning process. So we had a lot of support for the teaching staff in how to do online, but we also had a lot of learning support for the students, and I think that was absolutely critical. And I know it was critical, and because we've now had our student feedback, and there's a wonderful body of evidence from several thousand students who commented on these things as being really important, and that report is the report from which I've taken some of these findings. So all of our learning support services were converted to online delivery, every single one of them. We had a 10-fold increase in the use of important services such as our Student Learning Hub. We had a 100% increase in the utilisation of Studiosity. So we have Studiosity already as one of our online support platforms for students. We used 85% of our allocated time for the year by the end of July, so we negotiated an extension of that to ensure we could get that ongoing support for the rest of the year. We also really expanded our wellbeing and other support services, so all, as I said, they all transitioned by the end of our pause to teaching. We had a new wellbeing check-in service to check in with students, but not the kind of level of which people were going to, counselling, but just to sort of check in more generally. We had a call campaign. We had 200 staff from across the uni from all sorts of areas who just volunteered, made 47,000 calls to 92% of our students. So that was enormous. And actually the staff loved that too. The staff loved being involved in that and just going off and doing a couple of hours and calling the students. And it basically was just the staff ringing them up and saying, hey, okay, we've gone online. What help do you need? This is some of the things that we're offering. So the phone calls really, really helped. We've also created 2 credit-bearing subjects, which I'm really excited about, which was basically any of the students who contributed to that surge workforce in terms of, we've got a lot of nursing students who joined the nursing efforts in the pandemic. What we actually did was we created 2 students where they could actually get credit for 2 subjects because the intended learning outcomes were written to actually map in against, they could just add in the work they'd done, volunteering or community-based work that they'd done, or even paid work during COVID-19. So I guess that was kind of, I'm wanting to have a little bit of discussion about those key points, and then I want to actually send you off into breakout rooms and have a discussion. Elena, you've got to watch me with the time. But I did want to talk a little bit about this. I can see there's some questions that have come up in the chat. So I might just stop sharing this for a minute and then hop out and look at what's happening in the chat bar, and then send you out in breakout rooms in a little while to talk about whether there is potential, look, I've put it at Swinburne, but that was me going back to Swinburne where I used to work. So the discussion questions are supposed to be, is there potential to achieve better outcomes for student equity through online learning at your institution? And what are the challenges to achieving that? And what can you do in your role to facilitate that? So I will change that on the spot. But I'll stop sharing. I just realised I'm doing that while I'm sharing. See, we're all learning in online. And I'm going into the chat to see what's going on there. Yeah, Panicagogy. Very important. And that's a really good question. The first question was, what are the success rates of a regular student? That would have been much more impressive, Anna, if I'd have included that. I'll come back to you with a fantastically updated slide that indicates that. That would really show more, wouldn't it? Yes. Thank you. Another metaphor for pedagogy, designing a plane while you're actually flying it. Yes, that is what we've been doing. Could you please add the discussion questions to a chat so we can have them in the breakout rooms? Absolutely, I will do that. But do people want to chat about this for 5 minutes before we go to breakout rooms? Is there anything that you'd like me to expand on before we go to breakout rooms? Is there anything you'd like to challenge me on and say, I don't think that's true?
I do have a question. Is that
Anna,
okay to
yes.
ask? Yes.
Sure.
We seem to talk about budgets a lot these days. So I was just wondering whether you had an emergency pot of some sort to launch some of the initiatives that seemed to just happen quite quickly, or whether they're almost ready to go, like those units for credit, acknowledging students' work, etc. Was there anything that was already sitting there, or everything was just done on the spot?
For answer the first question, we have no secret pot of money. No, none. No, we didn't have funding for most of this. So no, there wasn't money. There was a lot of people working really hard. The subjects were not there at all, so they were written from scratch, but there was a work integrated learning and employability team who got really, excited about that and who created that for the DVC students. So that came from the DVC students initiative. The vast majority of what I talked about came from the DVC student portfolio, and it was literally done like we were building that plane. So we tried to look strategically. We didn't have money, so we tried to look. I think probably one of the really critical ways that we actually managed to do this was we actually worked really effectively across teams. And I haven't been at La Trobe that long, but in the 6 months I was there before it happened, I observed it was a very siloed way of working. Everybody did their own thing. So, the learning and academic support services were over here, library was over here, learning and teaching, learning design and EdTech support was over there. Not many people did things together. And I think that was the critical factor, is that people just got together and went, oh, we can bring this bit, we can bring that bit, we can bring the other bit. A good example was student orientation online. Like, the student orientation team had never run anything online. They never even thought about it. And they worked with the online learning designers, and they got that up in like 2 days because we brought the right people together around the right activities. So the short answer would really be really deep, purposeful collaboration where people gave up their territorialism about things. Like, I just saw a shift in the university sector that led to enhanced collaboration, and people gave up their territorialism. And suddenly, I'm a former director of learning and teaching, and was suddenly in a PVC role. And I also observed that many directors of learning and teaching were put into PVC roles during this time to to bring those kind of things together. And we all shared stuff too across institutions. One of my online learning documents, I almost completely repurposed from another university in Queensland. So people shared and collaborated and gave, the bits which didn't involve reinventing the wheel, we didn't reinvent the wheel. So that pedagogy quote can come from an academic called Sean Michael Morris in the States, who works for an amazing group called the Digital Pedagogy Lab, and they just created resources and shared them left, right and centre. So yeah, I think that's how it worked. It worked through sharing and collaboration.
Elizabeth, I might break in there, and if I could get you just to pop those questions into the chat, that'd be great, so people can access them during breakout. Yep. I'm not sure actually you can do the breakout rooms as a co-host. I think it has to be me. So
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
so I'll put that in.
So I'm just going to, I've created the breakout rooms, and you're just about to go, you have an invitation to go into them. Elizabeth's going to post the questions into chat. They're around the potential to achieve the outcomes for equity, the challenges there, and your possible role in them. You'll be in a breakout room with around 4 or 5 people, and it'll be for around 15 minutes. So you'll get a notification when we're going to call back to do a bit of reporting, maybe think about who might be able to summarise what's being said in your group, and perhaps some more Q&A for Elizabeth. Okay.
Okay, they're in the chat bar.
Great, thanks Elizabeth. And there we go, rooms are open.